What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Tazz podcast, and I am your co-host, Nini. Sup, guys? Hi, Tazz.
Hi, Nini.
Hi.
About time you got it right.
I know. Second time is the charm. So today's episode would be
brought to you by...
What? Tess.
Okay.
No, today we're going to talk about choosing people that choose you. Hey.
Did you have to say it like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to give it that pause. So, choosing people that choose you.
I'm giving it the pause.
Okay, yeah. It's like a second, bro.
Yeah.
Second.
Jeez.
So let's dig into it.
Let's dig into it. Dig it.
Well, I think we should break it down first and foremost on what it means to us, right? Choosing people that choose us. And then show our audience or tell our audience where that comes from, or at least what are our experiences when it comes to choosing people that choose us. Especially because we're in the sport of MMA, but we're now connected to people in professional wrestling. So let's talk about it. What would it mean to you to choose people that choose you?
I don't know. I was hoping you would be able to lead this one.
Okay. Well, I think it's important first and foremost to know ourselves. Before we can choose people and choose the people that choose us, right? We need to first know ourselves, find ourselves first. And see, one thing that I can think about, right? I can think about how I started the sport. And in the beginning, when I started the sport, I didn't think I was part of the family because I had just started. I felt out of place. And it wasn't until my first fight where throughout the fight camp, leading into the fight, you were in my corner, Carla was in my corner, and there were certain people that were constantly there for me. And so when I think about choosing people that choose us, it's that I chose to be at the environment that I was growing in. And from the very beginning, when I told you I want to fight, you were there to support me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think this is my example of choosing people that choose me, right? I chose the sport, but I chose to be surrounded by you, by Carla, by the environment that I was growing in. And in return, you guys chose me too. And that was me going into the cage, becoming a fighter, and living my essentially martial arts lifestyle. And during the time that I was going through my fight camp, there was a lot of growth. There was a lot of times that we got to know each other as fighter and coach. And you were there since the very beginning. You didn't ask me to fight. You waited for me to initiate the conversation. And from the very beginning, I mean, you've always told people, I'm training you to fight, but you don't ask people to fight. You don't force people to fight. And at least for me, I knew that if I wanted this, I was going to choose to fight, right? So the environment itself helped, but knowing that I was in the environment that I knew that I was growing into, that I was learning about myself, I think that's where, at least for me, when I choose the people, I choose those things. I chose you guys as my inner circle because we developed a close relationship as friends and as fighter and coach. That's something that I would say, choose people that choose you, right? Because you didn't see one thing for sure that maybe a lot of people that don't know, like you kept me accountable, but it's not like you were like constantly telling me, Nene, you have to be at the gym. Right?
Yeah.
You were not on my ass all the time. Yeah, you kept me accountable. Like, hey, like if you're going to skip training because you're in school, whatever, this is going to be your time away from what you want for yourself, because the only thing that you kept me accountable for was that I told you my goal and you kept me accountable on the actions that were going to help that goal. But you didn't force me to do anything. You didn't force me to go to the gym. You didn't force me to train or to put in the effort. You just welcomed me in as a fighter, and you allowed me to breathe and do my thing. And so I think when it comes to choosing people, when you're choosing people and they choose you, you're not forcing them to be with you. You're not forcing relationships. And so I think this is a perfect segue to talk about that, because I was not forced to train. I was not forced to be at MMA. Mm-hmm. So what about for you?
It's a good question. It's this topic was presented, and I've been kind of struggling to put words together for it. It's like one of the few topics, because I view it as an endless cycle. Mm-hmm. Because choosing someone that chooses you kind of works in both directions, right? So, with the example that you just gave, basically you chose us as your inner circle because we were, we were there in the environment that you were growing. But the reason that you were growing in that environment and we were able to provide that environment for you is because you chose us, right? So you can say that you chose us because we chose you, but at the same time, we see it the same way. So it becomes like a never-ending cycle in my brain when I try to pinpoint things. The way that my brain works, if I'm looking to solve something, I work backwards, and I was like that in school. When I would do math homework, it would help me to see the answer and then work backwards to see how the answer came about. And I kind of started doing that with everything else in life. When I watch professional wrestling and I do my fantasy booking in my head, I work backwards. I look at the ending of the match, like how is the match going to end, and then kind of work to the beginning. Fighting. How is my fighter going to win the fight? What are my fighter's strengths? How do I see this? How do I see my fighter winning this fight? And then I work backwards and how to get them ready for that. So with my problem solving method to be very linear, a topic like people that choose you, it doesn't have that linear equation. So my brain's struggling a little bit to kind of make sense of it all. The way that I see it, the first thing that came to mind was the same thing kind of with our fighting style. When I started watching MMA, yes, I had a wrestling background, but the fighters that caught my attention were the knockout guys. I was a big fan of Rampage Jackson. When he was knocking people out, he was slamming people on their heads, knocking them out. Big left hook, knocked people out. Loved it. I was like, if I get into this thing, that's the type of fighter I want to be. And I thought Georges St-Pierre was very boring because he would take people down, hold them down, and be very methodical with his style. So I was trying to choose to be a knockout guy, but my striking was struggling. And all the grappling came a lot easier for me. So the style that I developed over the past 16 years kind of chose me. So there I was presented with the option. I can either choose that style back, or I can choose to ignore the things that are coming naturally for me, and therefore creating a bigger struggle. So because I chose to embrace, okay, I have a wrestling background, the grappling is coming a lot easier for me than the striking. And even though I'm a smaller guy, I was able, if I got to a dominant position, I was pretty okay there. Like I was able to ride the wave pretty well to make people work a lot more than I was to get out of the bad position that I put them in, which was definitely not the style that I would have picked if this was a perfect world. So when it comes to people, it's the same thing. You know, I it's kind of like being the oh, pick me guy in school. And that's how I felt at the beginning of my victory days. It was like they're looking for people to step up, and I'm right there raising my hand, like I want to do it. I'll step up, and I just kept getting overlooked, and other people got the spot, and then that didn't work out, and I'm still here. I'm still ready to just tag me in, and someone else would get picked, and so there was no one else standing except me. And then that's when I finally got picked, you know, and I should have taken that as, okay, I'm working this hard for people that are not choosing me. I should have seen the fallout happen, but way before, because I wasn't chosen by them necessarily. I was the last one there. They had no other choice, you know. So I should have, looking back at it, and again, the fallout that happened has been patched up. I've talked to everybody involved with it. We're all on the same page again, the same book, good graces with everywhere. So I don't want anything to come off like I'm bad mouthing them. But at the time, that's what it felt like, you know. And when it came to the inner circle stuff, it was like, yeah, the people that helped build Warrior Evolution chose to stay, because when I announced, all right, we're leaving Victory, you know, or Anthony and I are splitting up, and he's going to have his own gym, I'm going to have my own gym. What does everybody want to do? And they made the choice to stay with me. They made the choice to help build Warrior Evolution. Yeah. Which is why I, in turn, choose them. And sometimes it's a double-edged sword, because sometimes you get burned at the end, you know, because, yeah, they chose you. You chose them back. And then maybe they changed their mind. How many people have left the gym over the past 7 years that it's existed? You know, so I can't take those things personally, even though it's very difficult not to, because I felt, hey, I'm pouring into you, and now you're going to pay me back by just leaving. And the coach is the last one to hear about it, and nobody tells me anything. Like we've talked about it in the past, only one person in the past 7 years of running the gym have come up to me, shook my hand, and said, you know what, I'm going to find something else. Yeah. One person actually even typed out a whole letter, signed it, gave us a letterhead and everything. That was pretty cool, you know. But it stings to the point, because as a coach, I'm pouring into them. As a coach, as a business owner, I'm in the position that I am because of them. So it's hard to not feel like I'm being betrayed when people leave, and that's not the case at all. And it's a work in progress for me to realize that is not the case. It's just things change, things evolve, and I should know that, because that's the name of the gym. When I think of that concept in general, I think of the flow. Sometimes when you choose things or people that are within that flow, like you could feel it. Yeah. Right? Because at least with that example with wrestling or your grappling, like that flows to you. By nature, you're a better wrestler, grappler, yeah. And so you choose that because, I mean, that's basically how you started, right? You started with wrestling. Yeah. You chose that, and you developed better skills for it. And in return, like it worked for you, it works in your favor when it comes to fighting. I do think of that flow, though, because when you meet certain people, you can feel their energies. You can feel if they have good intentions or not. And maybe necessarily, like if you're not self-aware, or if you're not able to recognize when another person has good intentions or not, like you tend to gravitate to the people that you feel flow with. And I think that's what I think about it. I think like there's flow, and that, I don't know how to say this term, reciprocity. What is it? It's like Riz? No, not Riz. It's like when you give something reciprocate? And then yes. I don't know why I can't say it. I was trying to say that, reciprocate. Like you give something, good energy, and like you actually feel good, and then you actually know people that give that back. Like again, the twins, right? Yeah. Same thing, like you know that they're genuine. Like you feel good, you feel happy, you're genuine. You meet them and it's like that's exactly who they are. They're very genuine, good people. So then you feel that flow. And the same thing when it comes to certain wrestlers, right? When you meet, who is the person that you felt like, oh, DDP.
because I was just thinking about DDP, right? First and foremost, DDP is one of the kindest, most sincere professional wrestlers I've ever met. Not that there aren't any, but I've met him and he shows the care to want to get to know you, even if you're just a fan, right? Anyway, he has that where there's that flow. And then whenever you meet him, you've talked to him before, there's that natural flow of conversation. I think at that point, that's where I can think about, like, choose people that choose you. Like, there's people that you naturally gravitate towards and you find that flow with them. And I think that's where good things happen with certain people, because you find that for yourself and the good energies continue to just transfer to each other.
Yeah, the flow is a good way to put it. And I think if more people just went with the flow,
yeah,
life would just be a lot smoother and overall. The wrestlers, yeah, DDP's a great human being to talk to. We had great conversations with Chavo. Killer Cross is someone that, I just met him. We just met him this year for the first time. And that was a great interaction. And just and we talked about it when we met him, that hours and hours and hundreds of people that he met over the course of that weekend that we were at the convention. And he gave the same energy and the same respect and the same eye contact with every single human being. I was like, how is it so hard to do that? And we all struggle to do that, and he made it look so easy. And we've seen him in interviews. We've seen him a couple times since then. And it's just, he's always that genuine human being. And he's got so much on his plate. He's busy all the time. So learning off of that, I think, with our daily interactions, because I know for a fact that I struggle with that. I go to the gym. I love the gym. I love my students, but there's some days where it's just real hard to just, have a flow either in the classes that I'm teaching or the conversations that I'm having. With the past few weeks that we've had, it's been even more so difficult to kind of come in with a smile on my face.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to come off as, I don't like what I'm doing. I don't like the people there. It's just, I'm having a rough day, so, but learning to and not push that on people, yes, I'm having a rough day. So because I'm having a rough day, why should I put that rough day onto other people?
Projecting, right?
My rough day is not their rough day.
Yeah.
And if they're having a good day and I'm having a rough day, who am I to ruin their good day? And this is all things that I'm still learning and the past few weeks have kind of put that into perspective for me, where I'm, in the video that I posted is like, I'm learning to deal with grief, not by reading or watching videos, but just by experiencing it and just being present enough to realize what I'm doing and the consequences of what I'm doing, the good and the bad.
I think is the self-awareness, right? You're recognizing that about yourself. And that's one thing that I see from Killer Cross that he said in his book, So Life is Fighting. The book that I'm reading right now talks about his early life before wrestling. And so he started martial arts at a very young age because his dad was a boxer, a professional boxer coach. So he's always been exposed to martial arts. And the thing about it is that he started wrestling or professional wrestling later on in his career. It's not like he started at 18 years old. In his life, yes. But he didn't start early on. And we can talk about it because I know I shared that section with you, how he started later and he at least took a big chunk of his life to figure himself out. And if he didn't do that, because professional wrestling is a very, I don't know how to describe it. It's a great business to be in, but if you don't know yourself, it's so easily to get influenced by people, or it's easy to get lost in, especially if you're always creating a character, right? And if you don't know yourself, you may get too caught up in your character that you forget who you really are. And so he puts a perfect example on that, how in wrestling, you create this fictitious character. Fictitious. Yeah, just my language today. Okay, shut up. Thank you.
Next week's episode is going to be Tazz Knows English.
This is a good one. My bad. Well,
Tazz
anyway,
English,
you're creating this character, right? But it's not really reality. It's just a character for entertainment. But
so the Undertaker's not dead?
No. Damn. Sorry, bro. Took you this amount of time to realize the truth.
At least I still have Santa Claus.
Okay, so anyway, then you get caught up in that character. So with that example specifically, he talks about that self-awareness, being able to know yourself first before you begin a different journey, because now he can fully be himself, like the 10 times better version of himself. And I think that's where you're at. Like, you're asking, how did he do it? And I think it's part of that because he knows himself so well. Yeah. You have that self-awareness that you're learning.
Yeah. I had a follow-up, but then I made myself laugh with my Undertaker joke. And I don't remember my follow-up.
Are you sure you're okay?
It feels Are you very okay, Tazz? Fictitious. You okay? Yeah, the self-awareness part is real. And I feel like the past 16 years that I've been in the sport has been a journey of learning who I am. And I don't think there's ever a time where there's going to come a day, 15 years down the road where it's like, all right, I'm at the point where I 100% know myself. Because we're always changing. We're always evolving. The influence is a big thing. And the example with Killer Cross is real, but it goes beyond just professional wrestling. It goes in just our everyday life when we have influence from other people. And I've always recommended to my fighters, since I have become the coach that I've become, to take time to just be in their own thoughts, and just be present and put the phone down, put people away. And it's easy for an introvert to say that, and it's harder for extroverts to do it. But every time you open your phone up and you go to social media, there's influence. Every time you have a conversation with someone, there's influence. So it's very difficult nowadays to just have that full self-awareness of what I think outside of what other people think. And in that, like you said, people get lost. And people, if I would have listened to people that said, I've had coaches that tell me, oh, the triangle choke isn't going to work for you because you're too short. If I would have listened to that and let that influence, I would stop practicing the triangle choke. And I eventually got it. I had to tweak it a little bit specifically for my body type, but that's allowed me to understand the triangle choke, to be able to defend the triangle choke and teach the triangle choke. But I couldn't let that influence take me out. When I had the falling out, the things that were being said, I couldn't let that influence deter me from what my goals were or take me off the path that I was on.
Yeah, I can relate. I mean, I'm in this space where I've talked to people that didn't really necessarily agree with the sport that I did, because it's a male-dominated sport. During the time that I started 10 years ago, it was still very male-dominated. But there were comments, right, from people that I loved that I shouldn't be doing this. It was too rough on me and I'm getting hurt. And it's like, what's the point? How are you going to make money? How is that going to be a career? And then even with the social media, is like, what's the point of doing social media? You look like a funny person and you're not being taken serious. And why would you do it, right? So all this questioning and sometimes comments will get in the way of me doing this sport. And that's where it created some sort of guilt that maybe this is not for me. But again, to that point, it was the influence that I was allowing in, because I didn't take enough time for me to realize that this is really what I wanted. And so that's where it could be a little bit dangerous for people that are still struggling, right, with their mental health, with being who they are or trying to figure out who they are because there are so many influences around. It's so easy to be manipulated into being someone that you're not. And I think talking about this topic just reminded me how even you as a coach, right, during the time where you were fighting or training for a fight camp, I'm sure it was difficult for you to put yourself in a real situation where you're like, am I just going to be a coach or am I going to be a fighter? And then how do you differentiate it? And it's like, what do you do, right? You're put in the spot where now you have no other choice but to coach, or you have no other choice but to run the gym. Otherwise, there was not going to be a gym.
Well, all that was direct influence.
Yeah.
Because if it was fully up to me, I would have continued to pursue fighting.
Yeah.
But it was off the suggestion of my MMA coach that I would help him teach to understand the sport better, because we were going to bulk me up.
Yeah.
After I lost my first fight, so that was a direct influence right there. And the commitment to being a coach and okay, I'm done fighting, I'm going to go coach, was also off of influence of my bosses to tell me, hey, we want you to open a gym. And then that was me stepping up for myself, saying, let me have just one more fight before I go open a gym and fully embrace being a gym owner and a full-time coach. But even with that, I think because I didn't get the ending that I wanted as an athlete and as a fighter, that part of my brain is still active. So when I'm coaching people, yes, I'm trying to, it's like I'm being 80% coach and 20% fighter, where the coach is going to guide, but the fighter in me understands that they have to figure it out on their own too. So I can't give all the answers. I don't want to give all the answers for that same reason. Bruce Lee has a quote that a good mentor and instructor protects their students from
their own influence,
including the influence of their own. And I took that to heart, because I tell everybody that walks into the gym, I'm not trying to give you my style. I'm trying to give you the basics and a foundation, and I'll help you find your style. But for whatever reason, there are always people that will refuse to see that. And they'll always assume, well, because I still get the questions, does your style mix with my style? I was like, that's not what I'm trying to do. That's not what I'm trying to do at all. And there are certain people that I think have good intentions to help, but they don't follow that. They want to give their style. This is how it's done. This is it's this way. This is the way that you're supposed to fight. This is the way that you're going to do this training camp. And I just don't think that's true. Bruce Lee's philosophies tell us otherwise. Jeet Kune Do is that no way is way. There's no set way of doing things. So yes, I'm going to give a guide. But when a fighter goes through the training camp, I'm looking at the fighter and I was like, okay, what does this particular fighter need? And it was always a struggle of mine when we had multiple fighters in a camp, because everyone needs something different. And I don't do the cookie cutter style of, okay, this week we're going to do this week that. If the fighter doesn't get things in week 1, we can't move on to whatever I had planned for week 2 until they get what week 1 was. And then there's only so many weeks we have in a camp. And if that fighter is not picking things up, we're going to fall behind. And I can't try to force a speed up of everything, because that's not going to do them justice either. So I have to be able to recognize that and see where the fighter's at right now. And I'm with the fighters every day. And I have the conversations about what's going on in and outside of the gym that might be causing a mental or emotional block. And that's what's important for a coach to see, is that it might not be a technical problem. It might not be a physical problem or a cardio problem or a strength problem. It might just be that there's a mental block happening in their head because of something that's happening completely outside of the gym. And if you can't recognize that, you're not going to be able to help that fighter.
I have a question for you. because now it just popped in my head. This is talking about from a perspective of someone that is struggling with loneliness, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes when we struggle with loneliness, we crave that feeling of belongingness, right?
Yeah.
And my question would be, how would they find the people that chooses them without forcing relationships? In that, you know what? In that itself, I want to ask on like a general standpoint, but also in the MMA standpoint, because there are people that struggle finding their identity in the sport or in within themselves, and they want to be fighters, right? And so they go to gyms and train with different coaches, and sometimes those coaches may not have the same intention, and because they're lonely, they feel like they need to be with that coach because yeah, technically the coach needs a fighter, so they're going to choose them back. But what if that coach does not have the same intentions of helping the fighter to their full potential? But you see what I mean? So there's two questions, right? It's basically like on the general standpoint, how can people choose people without forcing relationships? And then when it comes to the MMA side, how would you be able to find that person or that right coach without forcing a relationship?
A coach that takes advantage of a fighter, I will always put the blame on the coach, because a fighter's job is to fight. Coach's job is to protect that fighter. A coach's job is to guide that fighter and lead that fighter and be there for that fighter. So any coach that doesn't have good intentions and just is trying to make money or whatever the case is, it's on them. If they take advantage of a fighter that doesn't know any better, yeah, it's going to be a sad situation. I'm not going to pretend that I have an answer on how to protect yourself from that.
Yeah.
But to be logical during an emotional time, I think is a gift. Because if you are a lonely, if you're fighting the feeling of being lonely and you're craving that belonging, and you're going to do that to the first person that chooses you, even if they have a bad intention, or maybe they don't directly have a bad intention, but you can do better, or there's better options out there. It's not just going to the first option. So being able to put the logic to it is like, okay, what do I want? And if you are quote unquote alone, that is the perfect opportunity to take the time to figure out what you want. Because you can say, if we're going to go to the fighting route, it's like, all right, I want to fight, so I need a coach. Make a list. What are you looking for in a coach? Because that's why there's so many gyms out there, because there's a coach for everybody out there. I'm not everybody's coach. I can't be everyone's coach, and it doesn't fit, but I try to make sure that I keep, and I say it so many times in my classes, that I try to keep my biases outside of my teaching. And if I am going to put a bias, I will say, this is where a little bit of my bias comes from. But I always back up my bias with something. It's not just I'm pulling it out of my ass. And like we said at the beginning of the episode, that, yeah, I am very much a wrestler-based style. Doesn't mean I'm going to try to make everybody wrestlers. I would love to make good wrestlers out of everybody, because one of the biggest biases that I do have is that wrestling is the most important skill set you can have when it comes to a fight. Because if you are a great stand-up fighter, if you have good striking, good timing, you need to be able to stop a takedown, or you need to be able to get back up on your feet. What's going to help you do that? A good wrestling base. If you have a good submission game and you need to get the fight to the ground, what's going to help you do that? A strong wrestling base. If you're getting beat up striking, maybe you do have good striking, but you meet a better striker, what's going to help you change things around? A solid wrestling base. How many fights have we seen lost either from our own people or from other fighters, of people that just get taken down and held down? You get beat by a good wrestler. So while yes, I'm going to try to teach people how to wrestle, I'm not going to take that away from, okay, it's because I'm going to teach you how to wrestle. Let's not get good at our striking. Just because I'm not good at kicks, we're not going to teach any kicks. We're not going to go over kicks. We're not going to do kicking drills because that's not what I'm good at. I want my fighters to exceed what I did. I want my fighters to be better than me. When you started wanting to fight, and one of the first kind of deals or agreements we had is like, okay, you need to get better grappling. You need to get better at your grappling. You got to get your confidence up. You're going to try to submit me. And you try. And it's like, okay, the day that you submit me, I'm going to buy you Buffalo Wild Wings. Right? And it took you the whole summer, but you got it.
It was hard.
And instead of me saying, oh my God, I got tapped out by a girl that just started, I was like, no, I was happy because she was working towards that. I gave her tools. We grappled often because I wanted to see how much she built strength physically, mentally, emotionally, but also recognize the patterns on things. Because my own wrestling ability got me caught because of what I was trying to do. She was able to trap an arm and she got a rear naked choke with an arm trapped. So that's my goal as a coach. And I think sometimes the influence from the outside world, people don't want to see that. And I can't take those things personally. I can't change anybody's mind. Any image that people have of me, I cannot change their mind. If you're listening to this and you're hearing the reasons why I'm the way that I am, and that's the whole reason for the podcast, that's the main reason we have the YouTube series going on right now, is for you guys to kind of see who I am a little bit more. I'm getting more comfortable being more real on my social media so that you guys can see truly who I am. This isn't, and again, everyone knows how big I am on professional wrestling. So how much of this is he just playing up a gimmick? This is not a gimmick. This is legitimately who I am. You can ask Nene, you can ask Carla. This is who I am all the time. The sarcasm, the motivational sometimes, the problem solving sometimes, the seriousness, all those things are part of who I am, and now it's just a matter of me just showing it all the time so that maybe that helps people believe me a little bit more when I tell people this is who I am. I just had a good conversation with some of my students on Saturday. It was after class and they stuck around almost 2 hours after class and we were just talking, and they're relatively new. So kind of just giving them a background of what we are and who we are, why Warrior Evolution is Warrior Evolution, and why Tazz Knows is what Tazz Knows is. It's not me knowing everything. The name of this podcast is going to be Tazz Knows, Choose People That Choose You. Mm-hmm. And as I said at the beginning of the podcast, this is a difficult topic for me because I don't know. And that's the point. And by the end of this podcast, I had a little bit more clear understanding of what that means. What that means for me, what that means for Nene. You guys can leave it in the comments what it means for you. But by the end of this episode, now I know a little bit more about people choosing people that choose you. Tazz Knows is not a podcast where I am here educating people. I am the one that's getting educated. And if you guys come along with the journey, awesome. But that's kind of who I am. I feel like that was a little bit of a CTE rant.
Yeah, there was.
I don't know how we got there.
I don't know either.
Tazz No CTE episode coming soon.
No, but I think breaking it down, it's important. No, but I think I would like to know what people interpret.
I don't even remember what your question was.
It was the feeling of loneliness for people that are lonely. But you answered both questions, and the most important, everything is pretty important, but understanding that you have to take some time for yourself to get to know yourself.
Yeah.
Whether it is with a sport, because MMA can help, it's a tool, but
it can give you CTE.
It can give you CTE. Tazz, boy. Yes, if you move your head. Huh?
I didn't do that back in the day.
Exactly. But you also need to take some time for yourself outside of the influence.
Yeah.
But thank you. No more questions.
Good. Because I don't know if I have any more answers for today.
Okay, good.
This episode hurt my brain. I hope you know that.
Okay, Tazz.
This episode increased my CTE.
I love it, though. It made you think. It made you think, didn't it?
My brain hurts. I'm hungry.
You guys should take some time to think. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Follow along on this journey as I battle CTE on all major social media platforms. You can follow Nene at Nene_MMA. Subscribe to her YouTube and Patreon at Nene MMA. And then you can follow me at Tazz MMA_fitness on all major social media platforms. Subscribe to my YouTube at Tazz Knows. Follow the gym, Warrior Evolution MMA. Follow You Are More at You Are More 988. And I think that's it.
Yep.
Right? Thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you all back next week.
Bye.